Oh, Bronzebird here with another video. Before I begin, like and subscribe. Hey man, I kind of wanted to do a long assessment about this interview that I've been seeing. Shout outs to one of the brothers I just seen on YouTube, play the clip. I'm actually going to do a full-on interview about this. It's some parts that I haven't seen before that I'm just going to go over, and I'm just going to go along with the video and comment along the way because I actually find this shit funny. But for my own entertainment, I do find the dynamic between so-called black women and so-called white women amazing. It's so funny how the so-called black woman will be that aggressive towards a so-called white woman, and a so-called white woman will be aggressive to the so-called white man, but don't lift a finger when it comes to the so-called black woman. You understand? I enjoy these dynamics because the same thing usually happens. The so-called white woman is interested in the so-called black man. The so-called black woman does not like the fact that the so-called white woman is interested in the so-called black man. Yet and still, the so-called black woman is interested in the so-called white man. And the so-called white man will treat the so-called black woman like trash and will go for every other race in the box. I mean, in my honest opinion, this might be anecdotal, maybe and maybe not, but I know a lot of brothers and a lot of people understand exactly where I'm coming from when I'm saying this. Usually on a day-to-day function, it's usually common that you're going to see a so-called white man with a so-called Asian. You understand? I usually do see that. Not to sit here and say that the so-called white man won't date the so-called black woman, but usually you will see the so-called white man's preference being so-called Asians. That's just my opinion. And I just wanted to make the video because I found it so funny that you had this so-called white TikToker that's wearing braids, and automatically these whole entire diatribes come out from the so-called black woman's mouth about how she's trying to culturally appropriate and all these different things. But the so-called white woman's argument, and so as many other people's arguments towards the so-called black woman when she says that about the so-called white woman, is that you guys wear blonde weaves and blonde wigs and wear weaves and natural. Why can't you embrace your natural hair? So all those circular conversations start to come in. It never gets anywhere, but of course, when it's on social media, it's good for views. Now, the thing about it is, ask yourself, does a so-called white woman have the right to talk on the rights of so-called black men and understand and empathize with the so-called black man's pain? Or should she shut up and tend to the so-called white man? That's something you got to ask for yourself. I mean, I'm not doing it, but it's just pretty amazing that I've been seeing this so-called white woman around that's a TikToker. She's obviously a music artist. And she asks us all these questions. When I first saw her, I was like, oh, yep, she's gonna be nothing but trouble. But I'm just gonna get my commentary on it and see what I think about it. So Pete.
Of course, I know you based on your social.
By the way, before the video starts, they was previously talking about Kevin Samuels, allegedly rest in peace to that brother. But just to give my 2 cents, I actually did a panel on Kevin Samuels before. You guys can watch it at any time. But my thought process about Kevin Samuels was that he was controlled opposition. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but it is what it is. He was controlled opposition. He played his role within the YouTube space because YouTube is the new TV and new cable. You understand? And the thing about it is that he was supposed to be revered as the father figure for so-called black men or men in general, especially when you talk about this quote unquote red pill space. The black manosphere is compromised because it's all supposed to be something in order to go back and vilify the so-called black man, in my opinion. But getting back to this whole entire conversation about Kevin Samuels, yes, he was controlled opposition. He was supposed to be used as a conquering strategy to go against the rich versus the poor, and to put in the so-called to put in the woman's mind to go ahead and go for the highest caliber of men, which usually the woman does anyway, and to neglect the average everyday working man and set up this whole entire prerogative of trying to get the so-called black woman to still be with the black man at the same time. Contradictory at most, but that's just my opinion.
media. I didn't really know you have an Instagram. I more so saw you on TikTok. And of course, I told you that was the one question, right? Like, why do you need to know how Black women feel about Black men?
Hold on. Of course. And you know, brothers that pay attention to these interviews, these usually be set up for a so-called white woman to feel bad. Usually it's the so-called Black woman's psyche is to be on attack mode towards the so-called white woman or the biracial woman. That's usually how the mind works in the so-called Black woman. When she has a position of power, when she's sitting in that seat and she's able to ask the questions and all this other stuff, you can be sure that she's going to demean the so-called white woman for being white. And more so, when the so-called white woman emulates the same hairstyles or emulates the same type of wear that a so-called Black woman would be dressed in. Much as so to the same thing as a so-called white man that tries to emulate the so-called Black man or any other race for that matter. And if he dare says the word nigga, it's going to be a problem. But getting to this interview, you can already tell it's going to be an aggressive interview with this so-called white woman. But watch and see.
I think watching your content, I always want to get like a fair opinion of who I'm looking at, right? I want to.
No, the fuck you don't. You want to be able to spread your narratives just like everybody else and go ahead and rain down on that so-called white woman because you're ready. But I'm going to hear you out though, sis.
I want to see you for not just the comments. What are you saying? I think one of your videos was like, you're the average of the people that you're around. You said that your best friend was Hispanic and your boyfriend is Black. So naturally you're like the average of the two. That's the reason why.
That's the empathy complex that the so-called white person usually gets involved in by always trying to get ahead with saying, I know all races, so I can empathize with your struggle because I know what it's like to have a so-called Black person and a so-called Hispanic. And because I'm so-called white, I understand my privilege and all this other stuff. I've been around these conversations too many times. The so-called white woman usually involves herself in trying to get down with the program. We all know this, but I like to share this type of opinion-based type of stuff on it. Like they'd be like, yes, I know the struggle because I have very diverse groups of friends. That doesn't mean shit. Someone could still be racist and still have a diverse grouping of friends for their own benefit or for their own detriment. Who knows?
You maybe act the way you act or do what you, I'm not really sure. I don't know. I looked at it and I'm trying to like gain a perspective, but what did you mean by that?
What did I mean by what? You're the average of the three people you surround yourself with?
Yeah.
I meant that the people you surround yourself with, you become them. Like, you know, when you like.
That's a fact.
Spend a lot of time with somebody, like your best friend.
My best friend. Yeah. Okay.
How long have you been best friends for?
Like 10 years, like 12 years. We've been best friends for 12 years.
And would you say that you have things in common?
Of course.
Would you feel like you have a lot in common?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think I like morph into her. Like, I don't think I become her. Because that's what you said. You're like, you become.
No, I didn't say you become her.
She did not say that. She did not say that. I feel like in the subconscious mind of this so-called Black woman that's interviewing this so-called white woman right here with the hoop and rings and the failed ass fucking braids like she's from Spring Breakers. It's so funny to me to hear this woman talk right now because subconsciously what she's trying to say is, I don't need to emulate nobody, bitch. My best friend is so-called Black. Your friends is Hispanic and your boyfriend's Black, but you white, bitch. Like that's the season. That's the thing that I'm getting out of this conversation right now. That's what I think, but maybe I'm just judging too soon.
That you're the average of the three people you spend the most time with. Like you're that's the people that you spend all your time with.
Right. So you start to mimic things that they do. Because we have things in common. We like certain.
Yeah. So in that same statement, right? Yeah. You reference the races of the people around you. So we are in those terms directly speaking to that because in that statement, that's what you reference. Do you know what I mean?
No, you're right.
100%. So you feel like like you said, you reference the racists who are around you. Yeah. So you feel like you reference Black people because your boyfriend's Black.
My boyfriend's Black.
Or you reference Hispanic people because your best friend is
Hispanic.
Hispanic.
Yeah.
So how long have you been around both people? Because I know you told me that your boyfriend, you met him about 8 months ago.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Let me speak on that. The company you keep does, become a part of you. You understand? My thing about it is I grew up with friends that were so-called white. I grew up with race, like I used to go to high school with a covert racist. For whatever reason, they wanted to make it a reason to call me all these derogatory terms from slavery and all this other stuff. I didn't bother it, but the whole entire thing was for shock value. But then at the same time, the same dude wanted to hang out with me and be like, "Yeah, we're all cool," and hang out with my friends and shit. I mean, look, listen, I get the rhetoric of where it goes to. It's just that this is a whole entire setup for her to make her mark, and because she is obviously triggered by this so-called white woman getting the praise that she does on TikTok for being a so-called white woman that speaks dearly on a so-called black man. It's all a setup. She's like, how dare you have a so-called black man as a boyfriend? Do you understand that? Like, I hope y'all understand exactly what I mean when I'm saying these different things. You dig? Like, the whole entire thing is a setup. That the so-called black man encouraged this woman to dress the way she does, to have the emulation hairstyle of a so-called black woman by wearing those little spring breaker braids. Like, who knows? To have those little cornrows and a pig twist or whatever the hell you call them hairstyles. I don't know that shit. I just know people on YouTube always want to talk about this dumbass 3C, 4C, 2C, and all this other shit type of hair. Like, I give a fuck with what that means. I don't know what the fuck that means. I don't care what it means. At the end of the day, hair is hair. Either you have it or you don't. But going into this, like, just it's amazing where this is going to go. Let's continue.
So,
my friend didn't make me like this.
Okay, who
my
did?
ex-husband did. So that
was your ex-husband black?
No, Hispanic.
Hispanic, okay.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. So the so-called Hispanic man made you wear these braids and, in her world, emulate a so-called black woman? I mean, when you look at the so-called Hispanic, what was she trying to emulate? The Chicano culture? And we already have a conversation about the Chicano culture because that was influenced by so-called black people. So, I mean, look, listen, I'm not trying to dog this so-called white woman out, but I'm just interested in trying to hear how in the hell this woman decided to go ahead and get this little outfit and then speak on behalf of so-called black people and look the way she does when it came from her husband, ex-husband, that was an Hispanic guy. Unless he was raised in a hood or something like that. Like, if he was in New York, probably heavily influenced by culture in the Bronx or like Washington Heights or something like that. Who knows? Probably in Bushwick, Brooklyn, too.
And he made you like this? Like what, though?
Like, I feel like he was the one I spent the most time with. And I would say, like, I don't know, when people say, you talk, like, I was listening to different music. Like, I was...
Music like what?
All kinds of different... I mean, even with you. Like, remember, I never went to a club before us.
What made you feel like...
It's ironic? I'm like, it's ironic? As soon as she said Hispanic ex-husband, she started speaking like a Latino woman. You hear that in her dialect. It all changed up as soon as she started talking. That's amazing to me.
You couldn't express yourself as an artist. Like, why did you feel caged?
Wanting to be successful. And I just wanted to be keeping successful.
Have people, like, high-level people.
Yeah.
Was your husband like a high-level, controlling? Like, what made you feel like you...
about my past like that. I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters.
I think your past shapes you. I think that, like you said. So, nobody will really, of course, I understand if you don't want to go that, I 100% understand, but I do absolutely think your past matters, for sure.
I've known her for, she's one of my closest best friends.
Okay. Yes.
So I've known her for 8-9+ years.
Mm-hmm.
The woman you see here from the one she was in her marriage is completely different because now she's her true self. She's able to express how she feels, how she is.
I'm sorry to cut you off. So when you say she is her true self, but she just said you become the average of the people that are around you, like you start to
I was going
like become them.
It was not only that, but like, for example, I exposed her to like the club life, to Megan Thee Stallion.
You love Megan Thee Stallion. We love Megan Thee Stallion.
I'm the one that we went to bottles with. I'm like twerking on the table and she's right there with me.
Okay.
And I never partied, right? Because I'm like a good girl. Like, I was like focused, like, because I went straight from like Catholic school to boarding school to like LA, be careful, like.
So very conservative.
Yeah, and then like.
But then you meet.
No, and then to marriage.
Oh, the marriage. Okay, marriage, and then.
Coming out of it.
Okay.
At like 23, like what's
depression.
Up? Yeah.
Depression for sure. Absolutely.
You know, it's very ironic, especially you looking at cinema. Usually a lot of times they try to alert you about the relationship between the so-called Black people and so-called white people, where the so-called Black people get a rise and get attention out of trying to demean the so-called white person for being in a position of power. I mean, I even thought about subconsciously, and I know you're going to laugh or you're going to be like, what? But even thinking about the movie Soul Plane, where the whole entire thing with the father is trying to find his daughter, the so-called white woman, right? The so-called white woman goes ahead to the club and starts dancing and starts intermixing with so-called Black people. And this is where she finds herself. And then she's supposed to act all sexual and get all enticed by the so-called Black culture or being around so-called Black people. It even reminds me about the dynamics that happened with Miley Cyrus. She comes from the whole entire thing about Hannah Montana being this country girl and stuff like that. As soon as she starts to become all sexified and objectified, but that was by the Disney's programming, then all of a sudden she's sitting up there talking about, I'm in the club with my J's on and trying to emulate the so-called Black culture. See, the thing about it is the subconscious is already there. The so-called white woman is supposed to be the dainty one, the very feminine one. And then she allows herself to become more of that hip aesthetic by going ahead by trying to move just like a so-called Black woman. But yet still, the so-called Black woman wants to act different only in the presence of a so-called white man. Okay? It has nothing with her wearing weaves and all this shit. The so-called Black woman forever be a so-called Black woman, but the hair is still the same. You understand that?
I've been there. Absolutely. When you asked me, what do I want to get out of this? It was more so a conversation so we can understand each other.
No, the fuck it wasn't. You was ready to demean that woman, and we can tell because in the next couple of minutes, you're going to go ahead and start acting aggressive towards that young so-called white woman because of something she said on TikTok. I've been watched that TikTok. I didn't sat there and seen what that so-called white woman said, and we already know it was going to be a hellfire as soon as she said what she said about the beloved so-called Black man. And then saying something about the so-called Black woman being a single mother, which is something I'm about to address in a couple of minutes once they start getting into that clip.
And the reason being is because I know you said that I want a connection, right? Like I want a connection with Black women. That's why I ask Black women certain questions. Yes. But you must...
No. It was damage control. Why was damage control? Because the fact of the matter is she was catching heat from those so-called Black women on TikTok. That's what it was. So her sitting up there saying what she said on TikTok and having all these so-called Black women saying what they saying to her, she needed to connect with a so-called Black woman, such as this one that you're looking at on your screen, in order to, make up for those words that she was saying and to have a better understanding about the dynamic between her and so-called Black women. First of all, let me tell you this. The so-called Black woman will forever be envious of the so-called white woman. I don't care. You can get mad at me now. You'll laugh about it later. Do you understand that? The so-called Black woman cannot stand a so-called white woman, and she cannot stand a so-called biracial woman. But we'll use the biracial woman against the so-called white woman when it's convenient. Even though the so-called biracial woman still has a battle of her own because the Black woman won't even accept the biracial woman for who she is. And therefore, the biracial woman has to go along in a fence where she doesn't feel connected by either side. She doesn't feel connected by the so-called Black woman, and she doesn't feel connected by the so-called white woman. More loosely, she'll go strangely closer towards the so-called white people than the so-called Blacks. But more times than not, that's just a pity patty because the so-called biracials are confused. They don't know where they stand in the world socially.
Let's read your comments. So you must see that thousands and thousands of Black women are saying that this rhetoric that you use is offensive, and you kind of, do you skip over those? Because I mean, if you want a connection, yeah. So we're seeing that even your best friend being Hispanic and, like you said, becoming or being the average of the people that you're around. Yeah. We don't see any of that with like the Hispanic community, just more so just Black women, why are you single mothers? Black women, do you feel supported by your men? Black women. And it's like, I mean, if you're the average of the people around you and half of that is the Hispanic best friend, we don't see anything directed towards the Hispanic community.
Let me say something on that. When it comes to the Hispanic community, I mean, honestly, in the status quo of America, what I start to see is the Hispanic community is like getting more accolades and stuff like that because they're quickly becoming the fastest growing demographic in America. And my thing about it is a lot of people don't address these problems, but it should be addressed to some certain extent. Hispanics have beef with each other. They always oust the darkest Hispanics and stuff like that in their culture, even though they all mixed in some way, shape, or form. Recently, a couple of years ago, they started putting out these articles about finding Afro Mexicans and finding out more of these Afro Latinos and Southern communities, South America and stuff like that has always been like that, but they've always ousted the Hispanics that didn't look like them because it was always about whitewashing, regardless of whatever culture you're involved in. So I think with the Hispanics, they have a similar battle, but primarily the battle in America is always going to be black and white. You understand? Just like the checkerboard and the Freemasonry, black versus white. You can't have black without the white, can't have white without the black. So the thing about it is these arguments is always going to be circular conversations where they're going to look for the outlier. Therefore, her pulling up the idea about the Hispanic culture or because her ex-husband was Hispanic, this allows a so-called black woman to be like, oh, well, you target black people, but you don't target Hispanic people. Why is that? You know what I'm saying? So, and there's a debate on that too, because then the Hispanic community, they'll get ousted on trying to emulate so-called black culture unless maybe depends where you at. Because say, for instance, you live in New York. We don't really have the same outlook towards Hispanics as if you live in the South or you live in certain places in the Midwest. Like Puerto Ricans, Dominicans are still defined by us like they so-called black people. Maybe that's just another day because I already know some people out there have that ADOS versus non-ADOS argument, but we'll talk about that later.
Just more so the black. And so our first initial thought is you're wanting to gain popularity off of black outrage because that, I mean, I've seen one of your videos and I looked at the comments and one of the 27,000 likes on a comment that said, this is offensive. This is disrespectful. Why are you saying things like this, especially when you want to connect?
Yeah.
And I mean, you read the comments and you see the things that are, I'm going to have a black baby. What did you mean by that?
It was trigger points. That's all it was. It was trigger points. She was looking for a reason to cause an outrage. That's where I will agree with the interviewer who's talking. You understand that? The thing about it is, so-called woman's stimuli is that she tried to put up a fight for understanding. As soon as she felt like she got disrespected by too many so-called black women, she wanted to go ahead and start kind of causing outrage. Basically, that's another way of saying, yeah, I got your man. What you gonna do now? I'm gonna have a black baby. What you gonna do about that? That's all it was. It was a trigger. And so many so-called black women, of course, fell for it. And if they was to find out who her boyfriend is, they definitely would be sitting up there saying some derogatory things to her boyfriend.
I can't relate to you. I can't relate to you. Maybe that's the real, I can't relate to the place you're coming from. I can't relate to it.
To me personally, or just to black women?
No, you're asking me, what do you mean? What do you say? Like, why?
Because you make the videos and you put them out there. I don't think, let me back up because I'm super, hold on.
She's just trying to clarify.
I'm a loud person. So let me back it up a bit. Because I think
bitch, that means that you ready to sit up there and go off at this so-called white woman because she's directly asking you that goddamn question. Don't play that shit. Like, yo, y'all fellas that sit up there watching this video, you and I both know this so-called black woman is ready to crack and put hands on this white bitch right now. I don't give a fuck about none of that shit she talking about. Oh, I can get loud and stuff like that. She trying to calm herself down before she get loud because she's about to get offensive on a so-called white woman on what she said. Get the fuck out of here, man.
my tone.
But no, yeah, because you think you know.
Well, I'm asking. I don't know. I'm looking
That
at
was
your
shady.
I'm looking at your social media, and one of the videos that I watched earlier,
Was she not asking?
I'm asking you, what did you mean by I'm going to have a black baby anyway?
What do you mean? I didn't say that. Show me that.
These are
Baby, can I see your phone?
Black baby anyway. Show me that. You're taking things
Okay.
out of context.
You know what she's referencing about, because you're saying that she's taking it out of context. So what was the context then?
I don't know what that context.
So you have no
was.
recollection of anything of you online on TikTok discussing having a black baby?
This feels like we're in court.
Well, I don't know.
Girl, that's not what.
Okay, so it's right here.
This feels like court.
I'm gonna have a black baby and I'm gonna keep doing my braids.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's look at it.
Because y'all already know I'm gonna have a black baby with him. Also, I'm not gonna stop doing my braids. I want to have a reasonable conversation. I'm on your side. If there was a war, I'd fight on your side. But I'm gonna continue doing my braids because thank you for inspiring me. That's how I feel. Thank you for inspiring me. I love black culture. I love hip hop. I'm an artist, so listening to music is my biggest passion. So I'm not gonna stop. So that's that. Because y'all already know I'm gonna.
So that's what I meant. So what did you mean by that?
Just because you give me hate doesn't mean I gotta give you hate back. That's what it means.
Right, but what did you mean by, like, you know, I'm gonna have a black baby? Is because your boyfriend is black, you?
Yeah, because I want to have a baby with him.
But just
One
clarify,
day.
because it went from like, I'm gonna have.
Because if you have a baby with a black man, that's a biracial baby.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. This feels like fucking court.
Well,
Like this feels like court. Like, how do you say it? Because you're coming from the wrong. Why are you so defensive? What do?
No, I'm not.
what's the problem?
I'm not. Well, let's ask.
Certain type of way? Because I got box braids. Is that a problem? Why is that a problem? Like, I've had these conversations.
Yes, it is a problem. Within the so-called black woman's mind, she wants to be able to control that narrative. How dare you, so-called white woman, wear that hairstyle that me and my sisters always wear, regardless if we get it from them Asian-owned stores. Of course. She wants the so-called white woman to have that long hair Rapunzel shit and all that other stuff, while she's able to sit up there and get packs of that Rapunzel hair and braid it up. But you can't wear that shit, so-called white woman. You can't do that. We all know this. That's why I titled this stream, "The Dynamics Between So-Called Black Women and So-Called White Women Will Forever Be Funny." Because we understand it. Now you have this white woman to the right that's so like defensive now because she's being called out about what she said. She knew it was a trigger. She knew that it was going to cause an outrage within the so-called black woman's mind, and that the so-called black woman would yell right back at her for what she said. So don't be surprised at what the fuck is going on. You know exactly what it is. Coming out here with them goddamn braids and that goddamn hoop earrings. You ain't fooling nobody.
Conversations with my black female friends. Why is that a problem?
the black female friends.
So
Okay.
the question maybe you could pose is, what
This
is
is so
the
much bigger.
difference?
What is?
And so are you looking? Are you on the same side seeking understanding as well? Because I'm pretty sure Keita could explain to you what. I don't even think Keita has a problem with you.
I don't. I'm. This
She's
is.
not even on that side.
Let me tell you what Keita's side is on.
I don't know if
When we have a conversation, right? The side, when we had a conversation earlier, and I told you that a lot of people just choose a side and it becomes a war.
Yeah.
But the reason why it becomes a war is because we don't understand each other. So when
You never will. That's the problem between so-called black women and so-called white women. You never will understand each other. There's so many different, like, these conversations is old. It's just repackaged and being able to fulfill in every generation. The so-called white woman has no understanding towards the so-called black woman's outrage. The so-called black woman's outrage towards the so-called white woman is merely because of the fact of the matter that the so-called white woman can still go to the so-called white man. The so-called black woman still wants the so-called white man. She's tired of the so-called black man, so that still can uncover the truths about how the stimuli of the so-called black woman is. I'm not here to be Mr. Hotep and all this other shit. I see it for what it is. You understand? Because the thing about it is the product of whatever comes out of that so-called white woman, and it winds up being a biracial woman, the so-called black woman will be mad about that too. So it doesn't matter. And I've seen this on a post, and I agree with this as well. I've seen it on Instagram somewhere. The biracial woman is stuck in the same thing too. She will be treated like the so-called white woman as well. And the black woman would be like, you can't sit with us, but then say you can sit with us when it's convenient. You understand that? Just like they was giving issues to that what's that Disney chick Zendaya, whatever her name is. So many of those biracial women, like why, like who are you? Like why you think you can be acting in black people's films and getting all mad because the biracial women are getting these roles in films that's predominantly so-called black people. So like I said, the so-called black woman will never understand the so-called white woman. Or let me actually turn around and say it like this. The so-called white woman will never understand the so-called black woman's rage. She never will. The conversation has been going over for like 50 to 60 years. The dynamics have always been the same. The so-called black woman unleashes her hate towards the so-called white woman. The so-called white woman acts very confused and very nonchalant on the issue.
When I ask you questions like, what does it mean when you say I'm going to have a black baby when there is hundreds of black women in your comments right now saying that this is offensive? Do you understand what you're saying? Why are you?
What comment? There's comments saying that it's offensive.
Well, yeah, if I.
Of course it is. Look, this is the thing. Why? How is it offensive that you have this so-called white woman who's in a relationship with a so-called black man that wants to have a so-called black baby? That's her business. Everybody knows a so-called white woman wants to get down with the BBC. Who the fuck cares? Do whatever you like. Shit. Understanding a so-called white woman, a lot of these so-called white women want that motherfucking BBC poked up in their hole. The fuck out of here, man. Like, y'all, they fantasize a so-called black man in the way that seems very masculine and about his phallus. The so-called black man is seen as the sexual tool in this world. Seen as masculinity. So, I mean, like, why, like, so-called black women getting offended over something she says she's gonna have a black baby anyway? Yeah, that's a choice. She's in a relationship with a so-called black man, so why not have a black baby? Even though it's gonna be biracial, who gives a fuck?
Give me a comment. Let me see if I read it. Let's go.
So I don't know whether or not.
How about that? Because you and me are.
I feel like you're being defensive now.
Yeah,
because I'm trying to finish a sentence and you're up, you're down, you're
like give me a comment.
She's right about that.
Right. So let me do that. Yeah. Okay. So whether or not you read it or not is pretty irrelevant. Your ratio's crazy. You have 500 comments to like 100 likes. So I know that you being an influencer, you can see the fact that no one's liking it, yet they're all commenting. Of course, that's just my thought as an influencer. I'm like, why do you have such low engagement? And why is your comment section booming, but yet your like shares aren't? So
let me say something on that. A lot of these influencers nowadays, in my opinion, ain't nothing more but people who talk in a soapbox about whatever particular topic that they like. Maybe they're back behind a manager, social media account manager, or they personally know people who can understand SEOs and understand all these engagements. I mean, I'm not knocking the hustle, do what you do. But the thing about it is today, a lot of these influencers, a lot of these people out here is looking for the basic way of becoming famous and all this other stuff. And usually a lot of these influencers are music artists. They think that if they start off with doing comedy or they go ahead and they talk about particular issues that usually is circular, that they're going to be able to have a big hit, whether it be on TikTok, which is the famous app now. Instagram is dying. Facebook ain't really as popular as it used to be. Twitter is like, okay. And then, Snapchat is starting to try to move into these new like highlights by sitting up there having private Snapchats, trying to piggyback off of OnlyFans or create shows and stuff like that. So, the market reach, you could do whatever you want. But usually how I see a lot of these influencers are trying to say that they're branching out from their brand of, talking about whatever, getting them engagements and conversations, and by causing outrage, number one, which might be the point of why this so-called white woman did what she did and said what she said, or just looking for a reason to have these grandiose conversations to move over into their music. You understand? I should have did a video on this. It reminds me of that guy that tried to claim that he had monkeypox when really he didn't. he did all that to promote 2 of his songs. Nigga, get the fuck out of here, bro.
I'm looking at your comment section and I see if there is a war, you're definitely not on our side. The majority of the people in your comment section like that comment. It's the top one. Yet you skipped past that one, and the comment that you like by the creator is the obsession is real. That's the comment that you liked right here. The obsession is real. So if this comment is directed, or this video is directed to Black women, and this comment is saying the obsession is real, who is obsessed? Because you liked it. So why did you like that comment? Like, what obsession is real?
Do you hear yourself talk?
Yeah, I do. I'm super. Let me be clear.
I'll tell you one thing. That so-called white woman is like really, like really triggered. I mean, I'll give it to this so-called Black girl. She ain't try to unleash yet, because I thought she was, but I'll give it to her. She's really conducting herself like, I ain't trying to knock this bitch head off yet, but she kind of taking me there. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, yeah. Let me finish.
Very intelligent, and I'm trying to have a conversation with you to understand where you're coming from, because a lot of what you do and say is disrespectful. But no to the Black community and the Black.
Okay, and when we talk about the Black community is what? I swear I'm gonna do a panel on this one day in which we try to identify what the Black community is. Black is a color. Community would engage the idea that we come collectively together with ideas, plans, visions, all these different things, and implement them. So the argument about what the Black community is, I mean, we can go over that conversation day in and day out. But in terms of this, I mean, I feel like I'm forgetting what I'm saying when I'm talking. But, you know, just to have this conversation and saying offensive, I meant to do this as well. It's impacting off of the negative stimuli, which a lot of this, if you understand the human psyche, in my opinion, this is all anecdotal. So I can't really say that I did research on this. I'm just going primarily off of observations and being very analytical about just things that's going on. The problem is the negative stimuli usually wins before the positive stimuli. Negative things get more attention than positive things. So when you're able to have something as provocative as a so-called white woman wearing braids and hoop earrings with a so-called Black boyfriend, in which she's emulating a so-called Black woman, of course is going to appeal to the so-called Black woman's mind to go ahead and attack back, because in her mind, she's like, how dare you not know your place? And who are you to be having a so-called Black man as a boyfriend? It's a negative stimuli, part of the problem, part of the solution. And what I mean by the solution, being able to get the views that you need and get all of the attention that you want to move on to the next level of your career as a quote unquote influencer.
Community tells you every day in your comments, and you kind of skip over that. So I said, I'm not going to judge you, and I'm not going to be super aggressive. I want to have a conversation because maybe I can really understand where you're coming from. But what I think is you can't explain why you do the things you do. You can't explain them. So you say things like, you're being aggressive and you tone police me, because you can't explain why you say things like the majority of Black women are single mothers. Why?
I didn't say that. I asked. I did.
What did you ask?
No. Go ahead. Pull that. Yo, I gotta pause a bit. I'm waiting for her to pull out that vid. Pull that out.
I asked why that is.
Why the majority of Black women are single mothers?
Yes.
The majority of Black women are not single mothers.
That's true. If you look at the statistics lately, what it will say is that the population with the most single mothers, and this is something that's been going over again. The so-called white woman has the highest percentage of single mothers than the so-called Black women, and I believe it's Hispanics afterwards, or if it's vice versa. I just know the top 3 is so-called white women, so-called Black women, and so-called Hispanics. But even talking about that, it all boils down to responsibility, sexual responsibility, something that should be more encouraged in school. But of course, in school, it's not the same thing. And it also has to come in the parent household. Usually, if you're growing up in a broken household and the only thing you know is your father didn't care for you, your mom was taking care of everything and stuff like that, you might be raised with the same mindset, unless you're the type that's been governed by the Most High to go ahead and break those generational curses. Not everybody will get it, and not everybody will, you know, understand it. Some people will fall into the same trick that their mother did or that their father did. So, you know, be careful out here, friends.
And if you wanted to know this, is this for like a report you're working on? Why? Because it's not connection. It's not connection.
You see how she getting loud now? She about to go off. It's about to be another Fox Soul rendition happening right now.
And let me tell you why it's not connection, because the connection between an influencer is that of the influencer and the audience. Your audience.
Well, you can catch game on this. First of all, the thing about it is more than likely the so-called white woman that's in question doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. She's just bringing up the fact of the matter that so-called Black women are single mothers because the culture of today has allowed that the so-called Black woman is a single mother. She is a whore. And the fact of the matter that the so-called Black woman is seen as very provocative, sexy, and all this other stuff, in which the so-called Black man is seen as a deadbeat father, the gangster, and also the degenerate, in order to play down both issues between so-called Black people, gender-wise.
Is screaming to you right now based on your ratio that they do not like what you're saying and what you're doing. And maybe if you explain to them why you do it, but you can't, that's clear.
The so-called Black woman does not give a shit if the so-called white woman doesn't explain it or not. Only way the so-called Black woman will care and give a fuck is if this woman was a reincarnation of Ricky Lake in the early 90s. All right? The thing about it is where the so-called white woman shuts the fuck up, stay feminine, stay out of the conversation, and let so-called Black women who understand the so-called Black man go ahead and have a conversation, and so-called Black women who don't understand the so-called Black man, which is a good amount of so-called Black women, to go ahead and have an argument on TV, and the so-called Black man defending himself towards the so-called Black woman who's in opposition of the so-called Black man. That is the only way that this so-called white woman wouldn't even have half of the shit happen to her and all this other stuff if it wasn't for her saying what she was saying, to be provocative. Do you understand that? That's how the game goes.
Maybe they'll understand, because we're trying to figure it out. What it looks like is you're a white artist that wants so desperately to make it out here in LA. So she's going to say negative things about the Black community because you know that Black outrage is what will get you popularity.
Yes, bitch. Yes.
But it isn't, right? I mean, based on your analytics, based on the ratio of the amount of hate you get in your comments based on the likes or anything, it's like you can clearly see that people feel this way, yet you keep going. And I just don't understand why. I thought maybe you would give me a background story. Because what I personally think it is like maybe like an identity crisis.
An identity crisis.
Ooh,
yeah.
damn.
An identity crisis.
God,
do you feel that way?
That I'm in an identity crisis?
Not that you are one, but that you're going through one.
That I'm going through an identity crisis?
Do you feel that way?
Not at all.
Okay. Because this is who you really are.
You know what it reminds me of? Y'all know the movie from 2003 with Jamie Kennedy, where he tried to be the white rapper, the right rapper and shit like that. Like, you know, he wear the braids, and then he was making an ass out of his father because he was running for mayor or something like that. He's like, down with the bitches and hoes. So, so on her side, she's supposed to be down with the pookies and niggas. That's really what's going on here, the identity crisis and all that other stuff, man. Give me a break.
What's this? You made up your story.
I mean, no, this is what you said. You said you morph into the people that you're around.
You can't interrupt me. You can't interrupt me. We don't interrupt each other.
I agree.
If we do that, I'm out of here.
All right.
Cool. I feel like you made up your story about me. I feel like you, in your mind, you're writing the story out in your head. So I'm in court. I'm answering yes or no, and I can sit here and do that. But you're not trying to have a conversation. I asked you when we came in here. You're talking to me about trying to make it in LA. I made it in LA. I don't need to do anything.
Okay, hold on. Let me say something on that. To be fair, I'll give cred where credit is due. Do I believe that the so-called black woman that's interviewing this woman had a projective and was thinking in the back of her head that this so-called white woman was full of shit? Yes. Do I think that she was trying to hold herself before this so-called white woman got triggered and started sitting up there saying what she was saying? Yes. I definitely will say she was trying. She was trying not to, go this route, but eventually it was going to play out, and she needed all the ammunition she needed to go against this white woman sitting in the chair before you. But I give her credit though, because she really wasn't trying it. She really wasn't. But I could tell it was going to come out anyway. You know how women are, emotionally based.
Projecting onto me. That's the problem. It's your story. You're writing it for me.
And furthermore, this has to relate to the whole entire thing of clout chasing. Anybody that's out in LA or in these big metropolitan cities as an artist is trying to make it. Some do it for shock value. Some do it because they really want to. I don't know this woman's story. I don't know if she's using the idea of TikTok and having provocative conversations on the behalf of being male identified or being for so-called black men to up her career as a music artist. I mean, but at the end of the day, all this shit, these people do to get famous completely just blows my mind. I mean, yeah, go ahead, get your views, get your likes, but goddamn, calm down.
So I'm just over here okay, that's not the way, that's not a conversation. That's why I asked you, what do you want out of this? What did I want out of this?
Hey, do you ever walk into a room and completely forget why you're there?
Yeah, totally.
I actually wanted a conversation. That's why I asked those fucking questions.
The questions on your page.
But then also certain responses.
But then I guess, how did you want a conversation when you don't read the comment? Because you said, I don't read the comments.
At the beginning, I was reading the comments. That's when I got the bugs. And because I was like,
and look, can I just say that
I don't even know.
getting, when you're following people on social media and when you're looking at people on social media, you have to understand that they're following you based on that one video that they've seen. So they don't know so when you say, I started reading the comments at first, what did those comments look like at first when you first began to read the comments? What did they look like?
That there's certain things I don't understand, and that really hit me.
What it was you got offended by the stuff that they were saying on social media. They were sitting up there probably calling you all these racially ambiguous terms, and then sitting up there saying you're trying to act black and all these different things, and you didn't like it and it hurt your feelings. That's exactly what happened. And then after that, you stopped reading the comments. Don't play these mind games. It's like if I ever to step in the ring and say something bad about so-called black women, and I say I can't stand black women, I'd rather be passport bros and go to these different countries and fuck and be in a relationship or marry all these exotical women. Or I dare to say something like black women ain't enough, but I want me a biracial woman. It would be hell to pay. And then if they trying to find out that I'm trying to be a rapper, that would be more of a reason for these women to clap back and sit up there and say, typical black man really wants to sit up there and have all these provocative tones and provocative conversations when he trying to be a rapper. Get the hell out of here. And he trying to do it in LA? He ain't showing this dude love. Go sit your ass down.
Because when it comes to my friends, it's like, I've had some conversations, but I haven't had that many, to be honest. And I guess part of me wasn't even brave enough to ask those. I don't even know if it's brave or if it's I never liked the difference when it came to my one-on-one relationships. So I never brought it up.
You never asked the people around you these things.
We just talked about other stuff, other topics, not
just random,
yeah, just being a girl, more being a girl and figuring out life, or yeah, I mean, it's just difficult. With you, I feel when we talk, you get really defensive. So I don't really feel I feel like.
No, it's not about that. And what I will say is, at the fault of it, if you really felt that much compelled to have a conversation about so-called black women or the so-called black community, yeah, you should have talked to your friends first. Because it's nothing in my mind to say, if you got a group of black friends, it's probably uncomfortability. That's probably what it was. That she wasn't really able to go ahead in that conversation because she felt like it was going to be defensive and the so-called black woman was going to be loud, and if she say something, it's going to rub them the wrong way. I don't know what made her want to come over to here. to have the conversation, but I will congratulate the so-called Black woman for holding herself, because the fact of the matter is she could have went full on throttle and told that bitch, listen. But I will congratulate that so-called Black woman because she did hold her own. And she didn't have to go all loud and say this, that, and the third, or get all aggressive towards the so-called white woman. The so-called white woman was being aggressive towards her.
I don't want to project that, but I don't know what to tell you.
No, it's okay. I mean, your feelings are valid and you're absolutely able to express them.
Yeah.
So, like I said, safe space. I think that a lot of the conversations aren't ready to be had because I honestly, and this is like the nicest way, but I don't think you know the answer. I don't think you know the answer, and not, not because you're not intelligent, not because you haven't made it in LA or what. I don't think you know the answer. I think you're still searching for a lot of things, which is absolutely fine because we're all human beings. But that's why I wanted to have this conversation. I didn't write my story about you. I was just really interested in, maybe
well,
this.
That's not front like you didn't have preconceived notions. That's something you have to be truthful about. And do I think that this so-called Black woman is a liar and everything she's saying? No. But I will say that she did have preconceived notions towards this so-called white woman. And my question to this white woman that's talking to this so-called white woman, did she have these tough conversations with a so-called Black man? Why did she decide to date her as a white woman, right? Or what was it like being in a relationship with a Black woman before me? Have you ever been in a relationship with a Black woman? What was it like? Did she make these comments about you wanting a white woman? How do you feel you get treated when you're in a relationship with a white woman? See, these conversations, I feel like certain relationship dynamics, they don't do it. And then, of course, when that movie Get Out came out, ooh, that had so-called Black men and so-called white women on their feet. They was held to that fire. That's why they had to come up with so many YouTube videos exploring these conversations about interracial dating. The thing about it is, it's not interracial dating. I think in a men's mind, like, it's coming from a man, my thing is about attraction, whether that's mental or physical. I really don't care what race you are. And I think with men, usually their whole entire thing is, hey, I'm just attracted to who I'm attracted to, especially a so-called Black man, but he's caught up in the coochie.
This is a woman who said that, she bounced around from Germany, Russia, back to Germany, to the UK, and then to the US. And maybe bouncing around all those places, you lose sight of who you are exactly, where you come from, what makes you you, right? I told you that I was a military brat, so there was times hopping from state to state, city to city, where I'm like, do I like this music or this music? What am I doing? That's a part of growing up and really learning ourselves. But I say that I think that you developed a strong relationship with your best friend, with your boyfriend, and that strong relationship translated into you adopting a lot of what they do. That's what that's how I feel about the situation. What would you say to that? To what I just said?
As I said, I feel like you wrote your story about me. Just put it out there. Yeah, that's how I feel.
So as an artist,
yeah,
what genre of music would you say that you do?
Hip hop.
Hip hop.
No, see, you did it again.
I did what?
Wait a minute. Hold up, y'all. Yo, look, listen. I now at this point with this white woman talking, it's kind of getting ridiculous. All she did was ask a question. What genre of music do you do? If you would have said I feel like if this white woman would have sat up there and said said pop, she would have sat up there and never said anything about no damn story being mentioned. Now this white woman is going too far. If you do hip hop, you do hip hop. It's just that now you in the hot seat. This woman is probing you with some real questions, no chasers, really giving it to you raw, looking at the analytics on your social media, and you can't handle it. Because she didn't come at you, and like I said, I congratulate the so-called Black woman because she did not come full throttle. Because if it was some other so-called Black women on there, this interview wouldn't even go as far as it did. This interview is about 32 minutes long. And the thing that happened in this interview, this Black woman is holding her composure. This white woman just does not want to talk anymore. And that's why I know the fragile ego of the so-called white woman, when she gets held to the fire for having a conversation on Black people, makes her very uncomfortable. That's why she can't even go along with this conversation, being afraid to sit here and say she does hip hop. You do hip hop, ho. You probably do drill rap, or you probably not drill rap. You probably do trap. It is what it is. Let's not play games. You gotta clutch that goddamn dog tight, then make you feel uncomfortable feeling that first so you can feel comfortable.
You write your story. I didn't say hip hop.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Hip hop.
Oh, hip.
What the fuck is the difference? It's hip hop, it doesn't matter. What? Yo.
Hip hop.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. So of course, I'm sorry, I thought you said hip hop.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
What is hip hop?
It's just the stuff that I like.
The stuff that you like, mixed together. So if I'm in a record store and I'm
okay,
like,
so what you could have said was you do hip hop and pop, not hip hop. That's why I don't understand what she's saying. I think she's just feeling very uncomfortable at this point. So she's just like, I'm over it. And I'm going to play semantics with a word that we clearly know exactly what you're saying. Like, stop being ridiculous.
I need my Alex Von Dutch single. And he goes, the cashier, of course, goes, what genre is that? What would I say? Like, could I get it anywhere?
No, I don't ask myself the questions that you're asking yourself. I'm just making music because I love music again. Because when I first started making music, I was making music to be successful.
Okay. But this is more so making music from the heart.
Successful. This is just like, I make music when I feel like making music. Why did I go on TikTok? Because when Kevin passed away, that was something I listened back to the combo and I was like, fuck. Like, I was like, you know what life is like? You just gotta live every moment. You can't throw it away. And you just gotta be brave, and you just gotta be open, and you just gotta go, and be you. Like, this is interesting to me that you're like, oh, it's just like I watched Malibu's Most Wanted, and I think that movie's hilarious.
That was the movie I was talking about earlier, Malibu's Most Wanted, and I'm glad she mentioned that. Yes, Jamie Kennedy's character, B Rabbit, coming around with the cornrows, and Bill Gluckman for governor. I forget. It's been a while since I watched that movie, but y'all remember Down with the Bitches and Hoes. And then he tried to come over to the hood to get the hood experiment because it was set up by his father. Them punk ass dudes, that's fake ass gangsters and shit, got held up by real gangsters and stuff like that, man. It's funny as hell. But it shows you the dynamics between the so-called Black people and so-called white people. The fragile mindset of so-called white people and the aggressive mindsets of so-called Black people. That's what it entails subconsciously.
We talked about that.
Other stuff, of course, but
people want to see me. You know what? I think that
do people see you like that?
I saw that.
So the Malibu's Most Wanted is
I thought they meant
a white actor who acts Black in the Black
identity crisis. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's an identity crisis, and it's funny. Like, if I'm funny to people, that's cool with me.
Okay.
That's cool. I like comedy. I think that at the end of the day, there's a lot of stuff at stake. And
okay.
I think that I can see how everything together with I'm not a social activist. I'm not a licensed psychologist. So I was just being a girl.
Okay. Well, I know one thing. What I got from this, and I'm super, super sorry that you felt like I was defensive. I more so wanted to give you a couple of reasons why people in your comments maybe feel the way that they feel. Mm-hmm. But I can see now that you're into just being who you are and doing what you do. And I'm super okay with that as well. I guess I just say that if you really do want to connect to the Black community, like you said you did, one of the main things I think we should focus on is listening to the Black community, right? Like, if I want to create a sisterhood with another woman, I'd listen to that woman. We then gain a partnership, a friendship, a relationship together because we're listening to each other and we're understanding each other. But yeah,
that's true. And the last thing I would say is, when it comes to this social media stuff, you got to have tough skin. Just like when people comment on my videos, if you agree or disagree, I'll read all of your comments. You can't just take those couple of comments and then just disappear because you can't handle it. And especially if you're trying to be an artist that's supposed to be on main stage, you got to be waiting for what people say to you. Of course, if she was mainstream right now, you don't think that people out there will be sitting up there saying that she's trying to be this or she's the Rachel Dolezal 2.0 and all this other stuff? They'd be ready to fire on her ass. If you're not made to be in the public eye, sit your ass down. I'm not going to tell her to stop making music, stop making hip hop, since there's a difference on that. But what I will say is you got to be ready for the critique. And that just goes with everybody, not just her, because she's white. You understand? My thing is, at the end of the day, so many people act as if they ready for this stardom and act as if they ready for all this. People make comments about you every day. And you got to take that. So when you getting called out for being a fake Black person and all this other stuff, you got to take that with a shed and just be like, all right, whatever. And then when you come to an interview like this and you acting like an ass, you're not ready for stardom. That's just my opinion.
When I talk to you and you say things like, well, I don't read the comments and I don't understand it. It's just more so just.
I never said I don't read the comments. I never said that. I've read.
Definitely did. She definitely read the top comments that first came up and saw that she didn't like those comments and then stopped reading them. That's what happened because she knew that so-called Black women was firing on that ass.
Comments.
In the beginning you said, but then you said you stopped.
Stop, yeah.
So you stopped reading comments.
No, I still sometimes read comments, but not as much. No, because I check it twice a day and I can't go through them. Like,
bullshit. You become sensitive to what you're reading and you don't like what you're reading.
I can't go through all of them.
Do you have any new music out?
No.
No? Okay. Well, this was amazing and I really am grateful for the conversation. Is there anything you want to tell your fans?
Interesting.
Oh, okay.
I thought, is this your Instagram?
Although this is my TikTok, the one you stitched.
Okay, so I don't think we're talking to my fans. I think we're talking to my haters.
I mean, we're recording.
If this is your perspective, the way you're coming at me is with a lot of hate.
I don't hate you. And I want to be clear. I don't hate you. I don't think you're a bad person. I'm not against you. I don't want to fight you. I wanted to get to know why you say the things that you say, and I think you've explained it to the.
Sorry.
Wait, upset.
Yo, you know what though? I mean, I think in the back of this so-called Black woman, she's really trying not to say to this woman right now, you annoying white bitch. You annoying bitch. Because I mean, honestly, being in her shoes, I'm like, what don't you understand? I'm having an interview with you off of something you said. This don't got nothing to do with me. Whatever I have against you, I'm not going to talk about in this interview because we're not here for all that. Like I said, I applaud this sister for holding her own and expressing herself, but still giving a safe space for this so-called white woman to talk. We have now understood at this point that this white woman is super sensitive, can't take comments, can't take critique, but she's a music artist interested in hip hop because there's a difference between hip hop and hip hop. You see that?
I want to be clear. I'm not upset about anything that you do. Me personally, I'm not a representative of the Black community, but I am a Black woman. And I saw what you said and I felt, why does she want to know this? And it was crazy, right? Why do you want to know this? If a person walked up to you and said, what is your social security number or something near and dear to you, you'd ask them, why do you want to know this? Especially when you think that this person is an outsider, somebody that has no business asking these questions. But my take on it is, how can we grow as a community? How can we grow as a people if we keep pushing people away? So maybe we can ask these questions like, well, I'm asking you, why do you want to know this? And you said, why does it matter?
Why do I want to know this? I asked the question in relation to when I first posted. I went on there and I talked about Kevin. It was
Kevin Samuels.
There were Black men in the comments that were like RIP. And then there were Black women in the comments that were just, and then they started fighting.
So because of
the fact matter, the dynamics between the so-called Black women, so-called Black men, especially when it comes to Kevin Samuels, You know, like I said before, it was controlled opposition. It still created the whole entire gender divide between so-called Black men and so-called Black women. And the fact of the matter, he also used economics as a tool for opposition. This has no way of me saying it personally. This is just something I analyzed. It was controlled opposition. That's all it was. So so-called Black men finally had someone in their square in their talking point representing for the so-called Black manosphere and talking about red pill. Even though a lot of people say this red pill, blue pill bullshit and don't know exactly what they're talking about. Then they have these little newbies that's supposed to be pseudo Kevin Samuels, have no idea what they're talking about, say complete nonsense every day, but want to do dating isk and dating advice shows just like him. And, I mean, goddamn. But like I said, Kevin Samuels was nothing more but controlled opposition on the internet. Okay, that's all it was supposed to do. He had a job to do, and then they had allowed him to be the so-called father figure for the so-called Black man, to look upon YouTube and let this man be the father figure for Black men.
Kevin Samuels video.
And by the way, before I finish this video up, I'm in no way trying to make this a whole entire hate speech or stuff like that, because I definitely will say that the brother definitely did have some agreeable points. He definitely did have some agreeable things that he said that I actually did agree with. But, you know, like I said, at the end of the day, it was controlled opposition.
You looked at the Black and...
I was looking at the comments, like, why are they fighting? And I went on TikTok and was like, why y'all fighting? Yeah, that was maybe me.
I mean, but you didn't ask what we were fighting over. You
like,
asked Black women, do you feel supported by Black men?
That was later down the line. You never looked back into my content. There's actually, I left it all up. Like from the beginning, no, that's not what happened. What happened was first, there was that I was seeing it, and I went on there and I didn't say that. I said, why y'all fighting in the comments? You have to go back to the videos. I don't know exactly which one
it was. But it was about fighting in the comments.
Yeah, exactly. And then both of those questions, I went in between that time that I posted those videos, I talked to different people individually, and then went back on TikTok.
Okay.
So
what the fuck? So Black men had Kevin Samuels and women had Cynthia G? Is that what it relatively would be? Like, I swear, like, a lot of y'all don't understand, whether you like it or not, some of these people on YouTube, I believe, as agents. I must say, like, you know, they're allowed to get to certain positions because they're provocateurs and they're able to go ahead and cause more drama between genders and all these different things in this world. I swear to God that they're agents. I just don't care. They are agents.
I talked to a bunch of people, and then they gave me their perspective. And that's why I asked that question, because I felt like, what's going on? Like, why is it like this?
Okay.
And because you have a Black boyfriend.
I guess I know that you said that you paid the $1,000, you talked to, well, I personally don't find it offensive. The people in your comments find it offensive, and that's what I was trying to explain to you. You cannot offend me. You do what you do, right? If you don't want to explain the history behind it or why it might be, I can't control that. You don't offend me personally. The people in your comments, the people that you say that you want to connect to, are offended. And that's why we're having this conversation. So I'm personally not offended by what you do, how you wear your hair, who you have sex with. That's not my business.
That's right.
I just, like, real shit. I mean, I just more so wanted to know why you felt the way that you felt, and you expressed it. You said, you know, Kevin Samuels, that's my mentor. I saw the comments. I saw the people fighting in the comments, the Black men and women. And I posted some videos. I got some feedback from it. And that's why I asked more questions. Absolutely. Do you follow any, like, Caucasian people that you find positive, motivational?
Does she follow Andrew Tate? Or follow you know, more of those type of dudes out there? Does she follow that dude that's doing that documentary, What is a Woman? The dude that I mentioned many times on my YouTube channel. Does she follow dudes like him?
Oh, something like the same that you felt with Kevin, or was it just Kevin Samuels?
Matt Walsh.
Yeah, I have a female mentor too.
Okay. And do you go in her comments and pose questions to maybe the people in that community?
Did she die?
I don't know her. So did she?
No.
Yes. I don't know.
Kevin died.
So why would that be an adequate reason to go ahead and have a conversation because he died? So if he didn't die, would you give a fuck about having a conversation you having that results in so-called Black women saying the things that they're saying? You understand that? And that brings on to the rhetoric of usually you get more praise and get all these different things when you're gone. But when you're alive, yeah, you could be a provocateur. You can have all these different things going on, but it means more when you're not alive and you passed away and went along.
Did your mentor die?
No, she didn't.
Okay.
That's why didn't go on TikTok, because she didn't die.
Oh, I don't know her, ma'am.
Yeah,
so
at 57.
Well, he knew he was gonna die. You know that. That was your mentor. I mean, he said it. He said he was diagnosed with cancer around 2021. You must know that. That's your mentor. It came out of his mouth.
I didn't watch his content. That's what I was telling you.
But you paid this man $1,000. So you didn't know that he knew. I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you didn't.
And that's a valid point, because I will say this. If this is your mentor, you don't watch his content, but yet you revolved your whole entire thinking and your whole entire thesis on having a conversation with so-called Black people based upon the fact of the matter that Kevin Samuels died. So what was that for? You had to have known who he is by watching his content. So you just jumped on the bandwagon about Kevin Samuels all because he died. Didn't know shit about him, did not watch his content, but decided to go on TikTok and go ahead and make these thought-provoking questions about Kevin Samuels, not really knowing who he is, but paid $1,000 for him to be your mentor. So he was your mentor one time, or did you phone him afterwards? See, like, that's what I mean. A lot of this shit could be clout chasing. I know real people out there that really was cool with Kevin Samuels, you know what I'm saying? Or, I know of them that was cool with Kevin Samuels and actually had a personal relationship with him. A lot of these people out here be like, yeah, Kevin Samuels. And the people that pass away but don't know shit about him, but want to go ahead and do all these different things in his honor. It's very shameful.
Oh, what?
Okay.
I can't relate to her. I can't. Like, I'm trying to, I didn't watch his content. Like, I watched 2 videos that, like, my last boyfriend watched. Like, I watched, it was directed to men. I never watched what it was that was directed to.
No, I understand that, but I just assume because you paid him this money for it to talk to him, that you knew more about him is all.
I can't. This is funny to me.
What's funny?
This is funny to me because I find it sad. I find this sad.
And I find it sad. The fact of the matter is you paid this man $1,000 to be your mentor for one day or 1 hour or whatever you call it. You haven't watched this man's content. You don't know who he is. You only watched it because your ex-boyfriend watched it. And then you out here asking all these questions towards so-called Black people, more specifically on the thoughts of so-called Black men to so-called Black women, and then get mad because a so-called Black woman is probing you based upon the fact of the matter you said that shit. I mean, this is shameful. And could I go ahead and pull out that's a clout chasing card? Maybe, but it seems very likely that it's a clout chasing card. But you in the wrong place in the wrong time, honey. You need more research. You need more time. You should have never did that, because now you don't like the being in the hot seat, and you don't like someone going ahead and questioning you about your ethics when it comes to these type of conversations.
It's sad
that you feel so hurt that you have to come at me like that. Or that your perspective, well, let's say you take the perspective of the people.
Do I seem hurt to you? I mean, what is your perception of, like, do I seem hurt to you or angry?
Yo. Yeah.
I think the point was for you to too. I mean, just from the outside perspective, you, like, every opportunity that I feel like she's giving you to answer a question, I feel like even though you feel like she's being defensive, you've deflected and you've been defensive, and like your response to everything is to criticize the way that she's speaking. Like, she's not getting emotional. She's kept the same tone the entire time, which is loud. I told you.
I'm a loud person. I'm super loud. I'm so sorry. I'm military background.
But it's been the same tone the whole time.
I think that these are touchy topics, and I think that
the same way that you're trying to describe her, the way she is, that she's loud and stuff like that. You also have to understand, like, Alex's personality is, like, she doesn't like wasting her time, unfortunately. But if she feels like
that's that savior complex, though.
Do you feel like this is a waste of time?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm so sorry. Well, thank you so much. You can follow me, Keita Rose, as you already know. How can they follow you? Is it Alex Von Don? Alex Von Don official, I believe. We'll tag you and everything because I know your manager said that you want to stitch and duet some of this. So we'll contact you in post. I don't.
That's the end of the video, y'all. My thoughts is pretty simple. It's a lot of things you could take from this video in general. The dynamics between so-called Black women and so-called white women will forever be funny. The thing about it is when you have a so-called white woman like this one who doesn't understand exactly what's going on, having a conversation about a guy who died just because you wanted to have a conversation about a guy who died doesn't give you a reason to say the things you say unless you do proper research. That's like me doing videos against, let's say, divestors, Cynthia G, for example, or stuff like that. I've only watched them 2 times, right? If I agree with a divestor or something like that, and I make videos and I'm like, the divestors say great things about how Black men demise, like, you have to know what you're talking about. Or if there's a such thing as the Asian manosphere, and I'm trying to learn this because I have an Asian girlfriend. So I'm like trying to understand the mindset and stuff like that. A lot of takeaways from this video, but I really do want to make the point that at the end of the day, besides this on just the regular level, understanding the relationship between a Black woman and a white woman, also the idea that you have to take things with a grain of salt sometimes. If you are not made to be in stardom, you are not made to be in stardom. I don't care how much music you do. I don't care how many albums you have. I don't care how much you're an influencer on social media. Take the good with the bad, man. At the end of the day, this woman just did not do the proper research. And you sat up there and had $1,000 you didn't spend to have him as a mentor, and you only met up with that dude once and watched 2 of his videos, and you want to have a conversation on TikTok based on him, and then got sensitive because so-called Black women, rightfully so, came at your neck because of what you said. Fuck out of here, man. Peace.